Good morning, everyone. We are live. It is the Falcons Podcast on Monday. We're live on YouTube. Looks a little different. I'm out of town. Let me bring in some other groups here. We've got Atlanta Falcons fans on All Falcons. We've got Scott Kennedy Sports on Facebook. Both of those are Facebook pages. Then we'll get going. And here we go. Good morning, everybody. This is the Falcons Podcast. It may look a little bit different because it is a little bit different. I am down in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl. So we're going to have to keep this to a tight 30 minutes. Nick is joining us as I speak. We're going to keep this to a tight 30 minutes because I'm almost positive they've moved up practice an hour early. I don't remember being this tight on time in the past, but we're going to keep this one to a 30 minutes because we got a lot to cover. First off, I want to say hello to everybody. I am Scott Kennedy. Like I said, I'm in Mobile. This guy right here, that's Nick Kendall. He is in Seattle. And there's been a lot of news since we saw you last. Nick, how are you doing, my friend?
I am doing okay, just making the Mile High Huddle stream as we speak and getting the day together. I woke up about an hour ago. It still takes a long time to get everything going, but doing well. Excited for the Senior Bowl. Sad to see some guys back out. It's always part of the game, but really envious, jealous that you're down there. Looks like good weather this week and should be a very interesting week with a lot of information to glean.
Yeah, how's it look on the quarterbacks? Because I haven't really been paying attention to who is backed out or not. Has anything happened there? Because that's what I think most of us, honestly, are interested in. At least the first couple days of practice are the quarterbacks and how they throw.
Yeah, so far all the quarterbacks are still in. So hopefully, Penix, obviously you have Nix, you have Pratt, you have Rattler. All those guys are still involved. The big ones that have backed out, Connor Bebe, interior offensive lineman, stands out. Byron Murphy, unfortunately, stands out. And there's some more as well, but none of the quarterbacks so far. So that is good news and should be a really telling week down there.
Okay, well, we go live on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but I asked y'all the last couple of weeks, make sure you hit the subscribe button because our schedule will fluctuate just a little bit between Nick going off and having babies and me going to Senior Bowl. This is my fourth year in a row down here. I got them mixed up. I was like, is this my fourth year? And I'm like, wait, Spencer Brown, Trevor Penning, wait, those were 2 different years. It's funny, you said those quarterbacks. I think all 4 of those quarterbacks are probably more intriguing than any one of the quarterbacks that was down here last year, including Jaren Hall, who ended up starting some games for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, not a good group down there last year. Better than the group down there 2 years ago. I guess he had Kenny Pickett and Redder, so maybe it was better 2 years
Yeah,
ago.
it was an interesting with Malik Willis
Yeah.
and Kenny Pickett. There was the top guys were there. It was just a kind of a bad class, which goes against the just get your quarterback. Just get your quarterback. Just draft your quarterback. That mantra here, we've got to get a quarterback. We've got to get a quarterback. Man, if they're not there, would you rather use a 15 pick on a guy that could be a starter at guard for 10 years or Kenny Pickett? I just, and the answer from the general managers was the only one they thought worth taking in the first 2 rounds was Kenny Pickett. So it'll be interesting to see. We preach all the time. The worst you can do is reach for a guy, especially in the first round, where you're basically committed to trying to shoehorn him in if he doesn't work, right? New York Jets, and then maybe you can make something happen afterward, or you could just get really lucky and be a good coach like Kyle Shanahan. If you miss on a quarterback, that still astounds me to just flush 3 first-round picks down the toilet and still be in the Super Bowl. My goodness, what a team!
Yeah, extremely. I would not recommend that team building path. Honestly, I know that's like the Rams made it this year with all this dead cap. Yeah, well, probably be better if they didn't have the dead cap.
So
But
you try and build a team off the exceptions to the rule, and let me know how that goes.
yeah, exactly.
But
And the
guys
who are out, I just wanted to list some of the names so far. Yeah, Jalen Wright, running back from Tennessee, unfortunately. Troy Fautanu, that's a really big bummer. Guard, tackle, Washington. Michael Barrett, linebacker, Michigan. Mike Santrestill, really good nickel corner from Michigan. Cedric Van Pran, center from Georgia. Cooper Bebe, guard from Kansas State. Jaden Hicks, safety from Washington. Kayleen Carson, cornerback, Wake Forest. Josh Newton, cornerback, TCU. So that's as of 14 hours ago. Obviously, things will change after the first day of practice even as well.
Yeah, and I guess the measurements probably happened yesterday. I haven't looked for them.
Yes.
Yesterday was a lot of me driving down here. It was about 5+ hours getting checked in, getting set up. Got my whole rig down here. I brought my big old 32-inch monitors in front of me. So when I'm down here for 4 days, I bring my desktop down here because I know I'm going to be putting in some work. Put in some works, Victor. Victor Marinoni says, good morning, Scott and Nick. I love the OC hire, but I think we came up short on the defensive coordinator area. Don't you think that with so many connections that Raheem has, we could have gotten a better name? I know Evan is probably in here. Evan's first choice was Jimmy Lake. I remember he hit me up on Twix and said, man, if he can get Zach Robinson and Jimmy Lake, this is an A+ hire. Well, there you go. I think for me, my number one choice for defensive coordinator, and it might not even be an option, would have been Ejiro Evero. And he might not be let out of his contract. He might not have asked to leave. He may not want to leave the Carolina Panthers. Probably my number one choice may have been Ryan Nielsen, just to stay for the continuity of things. But after that, possibly, Ejiro Evero. But Jimmy Lake, what can you tell us about Jimmy Lake? I know he was up in your neck of the woods for a little while up at University of Washington.
Yeah, flamed out pretty quickly here in Washington, taking over that Chris Peterson recruiting classes. Didn't really live up to it here, but was considered a really good defensive back coach, and has some connections to a few defensive prospects in the upcoming draft as well. Obviously, didn't recruit the guys, but definitely coached them. You have Leatu Latu, of course, was recruited by Peterson, played under Lake for a season before the medical, retiring before going to UCLA. And you have Jalen Trice, another edge rusher, if probably early day 2 pick, unless he tests well and maybe goes to the back end of round 1. But two guys to keep an eye on.
Jalen Trice was mocked to the Falcons early, like in the teens at one point.
Yeah, I don't see that level of athlete. He has a lot of good pressures, of some good tape, but I don't see I'll need to have the testing verify that he is the caliber of athlete to be an edge rusher first round, which I'm not sure. He's a little stiff to me, a hustle player, which is good. It's fine. I don't know if it's a first round player, but two names to keep an eye on now that Lake is officially the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I think there's several holdovers from the staff, and I've tried not to piss on Arthur Smith's grave for, sorry for the bluntness on here, because I did think he did a good job in several of the things he did, and part of that was a staff. One of the hires I was hoping that they would keep over was Dwayne Ledford, offensive line coach. He is being continued on to the next staff. Maurice Williams, special teams coordinator, is being carried over. One of the guys I thought that a lot of us probably hoped was Jerry Gray, but as soon as Jimmy Lake was hired, he is a defensive backs coach. And good morning to Quentin Caldwell. And if you want him to be your defensive coordinator, then that just means there wasn't a spot for Jerry Gray for defensive backs. John Harrell says, good morning, Nick, Scott, Nick, and the boys, and everybody else here too. We're an inclusive group here. Wayne Robbins says, morning. Lake is just DC in name only. Raheem Morris will be the real DC. Everyone in the league is excited about the coaching staff, especially Raheem. Yeah, I think one of the questions, why not 3 years ago? What makes him better than 15 years ago? Well, besides, experience, to discount that someone can actually improve over 15 years of their career is just, I think that's disingenuous, I guess would be the word I would say, to say, hey, he stunk 2 decades ago. He must stink now. But the other part of this was the Rolodex, Nick, that Raheem Morris was able to put together, over the course of the last 15 years, including working for Kyle Shanahan, including working for Sean McVay. And the staff that he was going to build, I think everybody's got to be pretty happy about the staff. I mean, does it at worst, do you guys think this is, I think this is a better hire. The equivalent for this would be Dave Ragone, who is, if he's the offensive coordinator in name only, because Arthur Smith is the real offensive coordinator. I think Morris Lake is a stronger defensive core than Smith Ragone was on offense when we talk about the chops, the resume here.
And it's so hard to say for coaching staffs. I mean, proof will be in the pudding. Are these guys, you hope they have a good working connection. Raheem Morris, like you mentioned, he could pretty much pull from any circle, given his connection so far and just how well thought of he is as well. So I know that so many people I spoke with were just, overjoyed that Morris got this shot, because it was probably a year later than he deserved. So we'll see how it plays out. Excited also about bringing in Zach Robinson. Would Zach Robinson pair with Justin Fields? I don't know. We have not seen Zach Robinson, really have he's going to have a lot of pull on the offensive side. Obviously, Morris has coached both sides, so he's obviously the head honcho still, but We're not sure what Robinson's preferences will be, and it could be as simple as what's available to him at the time. But does he want a Justin Fields, the off-script chaos, but the big explosive plays, or does he want somebody more timing-oriented, a Kirk Cousins? We just don't know yet.
Yeah, I think, could Justin Fields succeed under a guy like Shane Steichen? Yes. Absolutely. Yes, he could. I think that would be, right now, if I could pick any coach that I would want coaching Justin Fields, it would be Shane Steichen. So if I have Justin Fields as my quarterback, I'm going to start borrowing a lot of stuff from the Indianapolis Colts offense and what they do, what he was doing with Anthony Richardson, because the knock on Anthony Richardson was, hey, this guy can't throw. He had like 50% pass completions in college. Well, all of a sudden he's hitting dimes and using – he has to learn to stay healthy. I know all that stuff, but we've already seen Justin Fields knows how to run the ball. He's probably a cleaner passer. If I was going on release, I would say he's probably a little bit quicker release. So I would start looking that direction and how I would want to run an offense if I were to try and get a Justin Fields, which is a possibility. Mike Harvey coming in. And Edward, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Appreciate the support for the show. And I'm just hoping internet is going to hold out for me here. So far, so good. We're going to go about 30 minutes. Last night gets a little tough. Last night was a little rough. So far, so good. Mike Harvey coming in with a super chat. Thank you, sir. Says Lake was horrible with the Huskies. Average with the Commanders as a defensive coordinator. Average can be good. I know that sounds strange, but if you run an average defense with below average personnel, you did pretty good. The Huskies, that seemed like a pretty bad situation. And I don't know what he did in order. And the timing on that was weird with COVID and all that kind of stuff. What did he get into that he got suspended for? Was it an altercation? Did he Woody Hayes somebody? Do you know anything about that?
There were some sort of comments that he made, I believe, that were not well appreciated.
Yeah, on the West Coast, you can punch somebody, but you can't, hurt their feelings. So I kid. And Mike, what I'm looking at this one is how good is he as a defensive backs coach? Because Raheem Morris might call this defense is, and you've got a lot to work with there with AJ Terrell, Jesse Bates. I will be shocked if some resources aren't put into corner and safety in the draft offseason. That will be two priorities, especially when you got a defensive coach there, Mike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So staff's coming together, and now we got guys down there with eyes on the prospects and full steam ahead into the offseason and building this team, hopefully making a run at the still very much absolutely wide open NFC South.
Yeah, and Wayne Robinson, sorry, I kind of misread that. You're especially excited about the Raheem Morris coaching hire. And yeah, want to go to Sterling here. Sterling says, well, we have now we need to get a wide receiver coach. That's not as important for me. Wide receiver and running backs coach, those are usually your two best recruiters when you come to college, because those guys don't have as much coaching to do. I mean, sorry to put it that way to my friends out there who are wide receivers and running backs coaches, but you're also really good recruiters, because there's just God-given ability at those positions. Which brings me back to when you said some of the guys that were sitting out from the Senior Bowl. I heard linebacker, I heard running back as two, like the top four names you named. I don't care. Those are the guys I want. If I'm gonna lose somebody from an all-star game where they're not allowed to tackle in practice, let's have it be linebacker and running back where they're just basically running routes on air anyway.
Yeah, the one
I don't know about wide receiver coach here.
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say the one I'm most upset about is Troy Fautanu, who measured in just about 6'3", 6'4", but came in with 34-inch arms. And he's one that's like everybody's going to put him at guard, but the tackle tape, still talking Washington Huskies out here, is really good. So I'm curious to see what just because of his style, he doesn't do as many drop sets. It's more of like, springing up. He's the aggressor in his blocking style. You have the three different types. You can be aggressive, going to block the guy. You can do that 45-degree angle. You can have the drop set going straight back. He's been much more of the, take the aggression towards the block, towards the defender, but would have been awesome to see him down there. He had a chance to, honestly, with the 34-inch arm length at his at left tackle there, he had a chance, honestly, to push himself to offensive tackle 3 conversation, in my opinion. I think the tape was that good, but now he's out. So we'll see what his stock looks like, but big fan of Fautanu, bummed that he's out.
JB, Falcons fan, we are so back. Back to what? Sorry, I'm an old head where, the Falcons weren't ever really all that good. Back to what? No, the 2000s were kind of a golden age for the Atlanta Falcons compared to the rest of their history. Damn near got a Super Bowl out of it, et cetera, et cetera. Evan, I know Evan's happy. Evan says, good morning. We have our coordinators. Now it's time for evaluations. Who do you genuinely think will be the quarterback going into next year? Justin Fields? I almost said Christian Kirk. Kirk Cousins asking for $45 million per year, a rookie, a journeyman. I don't think Cousins is going to get $45 million per year. 45 on a 2-year deal with 30 guaranteed starts making sense, Nick, because that ends up being a 1-year, $30 million deal. But I could see Cousins in Atlanta. I could. I think that would make a lot of sense. I mean, could you picture Kirk Cousins stepping in for Matthew Stafford? If that's the kind of offense they're going to run, if they're going to be something similar to that. The answer to that one, Nick, is yes. No, yes. Could you? Does Kirk Cousins, would he fit into an offense that Matthew Stafford fits into?
Yes, for the most part. You're not going to have as many of the trick shots that you see with Matt Stafford. The arm.
I'm not saying he's Matthew Stafford, but he could run that offense.
Yeah, the thing with Matt Stafford is that he's the arm talent and the arm arrogance he has. He's able to push windows and do stuff off platform still within structure that only 6-7 quarterbacks can do consistently.
Ever?
You don't really have that from Cousins. I mean, ever too. So Cousins is much more static in the pocket. Now, that said, there's some plays when he's healthy where he's able to, still go off platform, off that back foot and deliver the ball really well. And I think he'd be a really good fit. He's going to be expensive. It comes down to that Achilles. But, I mean, you put Cousins on this team, I'd probably have him at 11.5 wins over under with Cousins if he's healthy. I think the bones of the rest of the roster are that good.
Give him $30 million, basically a 2-year deal worth whatever you want to pay him in year 1 guaranteed. So it is a 1-year deal. And then go buy about a $2 million Lloyd's of London insurance policy, if you're Arthur Blank, in case he gets hurt. Rise up. Good morning. Coming in from Jamal. Good to see you. Another PR. Good to see you as well. Love that tube. Dave Glassman is in here with us this morning. Mark Schrader out in Texas says, thanks for covering the Senior Bowl, Scott. Well, thanks to y'all is why I'm down here. When I first started doing this a few years ago, I guess it would be 3 years ago now. This would be my 4th, so that would be 3 years ago. I was down here for my first one of these 4. I had about 600 maybe subscribers on the YouTube channel, and it wasn't monetizing. It was just, listen, this is something I want to start doing. And by the end of the week, I think we'll probably have 5,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. I've got a big following on the Facebook page, which is monetizing as well. So because of Mark and guys like y'all who have been with us from the beginning and have told your friends and have shared and liked and all those kind of stuff, well, by God, I'll be coming down. I'll be down here. And I got the 4K camera sitting behind me and ready to bring some video tonight. The first 2 videos I'll have one for sure. These take a little bit longer, and my Wi-Fi is crap here, so uploading it takes an hour. But I'll have Bo Nix and or Michael Penix tonight. So that will be the first ones to look for what they do today. It'll be a lot of throwing on air. It's not going to be a lot of exciting. Of course, last year I said that, and the Jokers went out and did one-on-ones in the lines of scrimmage last year. So you never know.
Get that again. Last year it was DeJuan Jones, right? It's like, oh my God, this and he still falls the fourth round because he's a little bit of an odd duck, but looks like
he left. Then he left.
Yep. That dominated and then was gone. Mohamed Sanu for wide receiver coach. I don't know if that actually is breaking news or if you're just calling a shot there.
No, JB. I think that's where he wants. And and the other one in here, who did I miss in here? Talking about Terrence Mathis. Oh, it's another PR. Terrence Mathis. After I just got done saying that, it's not as critical a coaching position as offensive line or a defensive tackle with pass rushing. Trenches, I think, is where you actually get the most coaching and outside of quarterback. With technique and everything. I don't think Mathis has been coaching. Now, he was on the Nike camp circuit the same time I was covering all of those. So I know he's put in some work and stuff, but I don't think he's even coached much high school. He's probably dabbled in it somewhere, but I don't know what Mohamed Sanu has done either. Red Swarm says, good morning. Good to see you. Rusty Moore, he's just kind of meh on the defensive coordinator hire, and I get that. Again, I compare this a little bit to Arthur Smith hiring Dave Ragone. But I think Lake has a much, much better resume than as just an assistant to Raheem Morris, that I think he brings a little bit more to the table here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I trust Morris, and we're going to see how it looks. And guess what? If Lake is not adequate, he'll be gone. A lot of times, coaching staffs take multiple years kind of really to get together, because when the process is, when you're hiring those guys, you need to get it together quick. You need to not really target as specific guys as much. Guys that you might want to work with are on other staffs immediately. So sometimes it takes 2 or 3 cycles to really get that staff honed in, and with the guys that you want now. Maybe not as much. That's more positional coaches than it is the coordinators. But we'll see with Lake. I mean, he's got tough, big shoes to fill after what we saw last year from Nielsen. And Morris is a defensive-minded coach. So kind of like last year with Arthur Smith, if the defense isn't up to par, coach is going to be taking heat for that. And I guess he has a fall guy with Lake, but we'll see. Considered a really smart defensive backs coach, and second man in charge at least. The buck stops with Morris in that regard.
Here's the biggest difference for me between you hired defensive coaches before, but the defense never was really very good. You had Mike Smith, you had Dan Quinn. Raheem Morris was here. His defenses weren't that great in Atlanta. Terry Fautanu didn't give a damn about the defensive side of the – I'm sorry, I screwed that up. Thomas Dimitroff didn't give a damn about the defensive side of the ball. I said he built a team as if he was the agent for a quarterback on a 7-on-7 team. The trenches were just not ignored, but they certainly didn't get the attention they deserve. I trust Terry Fautanu to build a much more balanced team and give the defensive guys some of the resources they need in order to succeed. We saw it last year. My God, they hit on every single one of their moves last year. In free agency, and I don't expect it to be that good again. I mean, you go 6 for 6, come on. And then the bar was set low. I mean, again, they weren't replacing Hall of Famers out there, but they did a really, really good job. And JB coming in and saying Shanahan is a great overall team, though, when I was talking about, being able to flush 3 first-rounders down the drain. I honestly think Arthur Smith, and they figured, we want to go to the San Francisco model and build a team that is so good it's basically quarterback independent. We can just plug and play a guy in there, and they didn't have that. And then the turnovers, that's what gets you. You doesn't matter how good the rest of your team is if you're turning the ball over, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, can't have it outside of points and yards. Nothing more indicative of wins losses than the turnover margin. So, got to protect the damn ball, and that's hopefully something that'll be better this season than what we saw last year with the Falcons.
Michael says, morning, everyone. I don't understand how we let Ryann go, who did good, and we kept the special teams coach, who I didn't think did as well. Ryan Nielsen probably went and asked if he could leave. And despite contracts for coordinators, when you've got a staff change, I don't know that I've really ever seen guys being held to this. We saw it with Ejiro Evero last year when the Denver Broncos made a coaching change. Ejiro Evero is one of the top defensive coordinator candidates in the NFL. He's going to be a head coach here before too long. Also, he asked to leave, and he was granted that request. So when Ryan Nielsen has a pretty good idea who's coming in, he says, hey, I'd like to go, because they denied his request at first. They denied the request for Ryan Nielsen at first. And then after I think it was Belichick's second interview, they said, yes, that's what kind of led us to think, okay, it's going to be Belichick. But that was one of the things that led me to think this might be a defensive guy coming in. And the day before he was hired, I had Raheem Morris's picture on the thumbnail of this pod when Ryan Nielsen was gone. So I understand, Michael, when they asked to be released. And frankly, Nick, you said Raheem Morris and guys wanting to work for him. There's guys that want to work for Arthur Blank too. Arthur Blank is seen as a good owner amongst NFL personnel and a good guy to work for. So when you've got Raheem Morris and Arthur Blank coming out and making hires, you've got a pretty good chance to get the guys you want to on your staff.
Yeah. It's a good organization. It's a good opportunity. Also, like we talked about, the NFC South is open. You are not in the Patrick Mahomes, hurdle every single year that I find myself in with the Broncos. So it's a good spot, and Arthur Blank is definitely pulling all the stops. That's a big reason that you were in the Belichick conversation. Blank was willing to pay a hefty amount of money, and he wants to win and listen to other people in the end. But it will be fun to follow. I'm curious to see. Now the question is quarterback. What does Arthur Blank do there? We kind of saw the aggressiveness with Deshaun Watson. There's been some flirtations about trades up in the past. Can you get up to 3? Do you like quarterback 4 enough that you can take him there? Do you have to trade up for quarterback 4? Do you pay a guy in free agency? It's going to be fascinating. Who knows?
This is about the only time I'll let these numbers be seen on this podcast, but it makes sense. Kyle Shanahan is primarily responsible for 28-3. Run the damn ball. And Matt Ryan may have said, run the effing ball coming off the field one time in that game. He learned from his mistakes, is now considered one of the best in the business. We owe Mr. Morris the same consideration. Yeah. Again, experience. I mean, to get that job at 32 years old and flame out, is that really that big a surprise? I mean, Sean McVay is one of the bigger exceptions to this rule, but some of the young wonderkins that we've seen come through, like Josh McDaniels, who else came through that early? Lane Kiffin was a head coach about that age. Raheem Morris, hey, they fail and get fired and they come back. So again, I'm hopeful for this team. I really am. And I'm really, really looking forward to the next couple of weeks with free agency, because that's one of the things I never got it. I'll be honest with you, until I started working in NFL media, I never really understood how big NFL free agency was. Why? Because I'd only followed the Falcons, and the Falcons didn't get free agents. Well, they do now. They've got guys, they've got an owner that'll spend some money and a franchise that's worth coming to. So very interesting. Red Swarm says, I know number 8 may be a little rich for a pick like Michael Penix Jr. right now pre-combine, but I think he absolutely fits the prototypical quarterbacks that Zach Robinson has had with the Rams. How do you feel about this? I think 8 is a little rich. Would make me nervous, but you've seen him throw a lot more than I have. Does he fit into that Rams style of offense?
I don't know. I mean, they like to move the pocket a good bit. They like to work the middle of the field, and that is 2 areas where Penix is not as good. Now, he's very smart in that drop back pass game, and I think Robinson, especially McVay, have been good enough that they've matched the quarterback or the scheme to the quarterback rather than the quarterback to the scheme. So they'd figure it out here. I don't know if Penix is a perfect fit. I don't know if he's number 8 overall. We'll see. He's going to be off a lot of teams' boards, quite frankly, with the shoulder and leg injuries that he's had, and on top of his age. So we'll find out this week. A little bit more even competition here between him, Nix, Rattler as well. Dark horse here. We'll see what happens with him. But yeah, if Penix is your guy, you can probably get him round 2.
Justin Farmer, and then we're probably going to have to get out of here. I said we got to keep it a tight 30, and we're at 28. He says CBS gave Dave Canales, the Panthers' new head coach, a B+ hire, but gave Raheem a B-. To me, that makes no sense since Canales is a first-year coach while Morris has been in the league. And that you may have answered your question on that, Justin. It could be that mystery box thing. Again, if I'm looking at Raheem Morris and I wanted to be negative, I want to take the negative side, I'd look at his coaching career. Well, he was 4-7 3 years ago in Atlanta. Why would I hire this guy? He's got an under 400 winning percentage. What kind of hire is that? Well, this is what it is. And we're looking at the positive side of things because we want to take a look at the upside here. Canales is the unknown, and he's a hot candidate. I mean, if you were to take Bobby Slowick, another one of those young guys, would you have gotten a higher grade for hiring him? Probably. Would he be a better head coach? Maybe, maybe not. Ben Johnson is probably the number 2 candidate out of everybody that was coming out in this cycle. He's an unknown, but when Washington hires him, they're going to get an A. They're going to get an A for this because of the potential, the upside. That's a little bit more capped for a guy that already has a few years in the league by perception. And none of those grades are going to win football games, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to grade quarterback or coaching staffs, coaching hires. You don't really know until you have time pass. I mean, the Broncos got a good grade for Sean Payton, but could blow up with how they're attacking the off season. If they're going to be aggressive and it doesn't work out, then set yourself further back. So you don't know until you know. Brandon Swank says, do you think when it comes to free agency, Aaron Donald would be a good fit for us? There are 32 teams that Aaron Donald would be a good fit for. I don't know if he's ever going to hit free agency. There's been more flirtation with him retiring. I think rather than leaving the Rams, I think he'd call it quits versus, not a shot at the Falcons or anything. It's just he's played a lot now. He's getting older and he's pretty much proven everything he can. He's got a ring. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the best singular players in the last decade in the NFL. He'd be on the all-decade team, no doubt. So I don't think, unless somebody's going to pay him unbelievable money, that just doesn't even make total sense. Maybe he'd go, but I remember 2 years ago there was talk about him thinking like, oh, maybe I hang it up now. So I couldn't see it.
The flip side of this, and Andrew Lampy, I see you. Go on over to Mile High Huddle. We'll be there in just a minute, or hang out. I'm going to end this stream and we're going to launch another one, but he's asking about Denver Broncos. We're on Falcons right now. We're going to jump over to Denver Broncos here at youtube.com/Mile High Huddle in the next couple of minutes, or you can stay here at YouTube, at Facebook, Scott Kennedy Sports. But the answer to this is he would be a good fit. What's interesting enough, though, is let's take money out of the equation. The position I think is probably the best filled right now would be the both interior line spots. So if I could take the, not considering he's maybe the best defensive player in the league, but David Onyemata and a healthy Grady Jarrett are good. That's two of the best. That's one of the best tandems in the NFL. So Aaron Donald, the impact that he would have, considering his stature as a player, isn't quite as high as if you were to grab one of the top two, the number one player at a different position. But yes, he'd be a good fit because he is that good. No, it's not going to happen. Listen, y'all, we got to get out of here. We will be back tomorrow, though, and we'll go 45 to 50 minutes. We'll be talking some Senior Bowl. We'll get back into all of this. We'll be back on our regular schedule, so Wednesday morning. So make sure you hit that subscribe button to get that alert. We will be back tomorrow. If you want to continue the conversation, we're going to go talk some quarterbacks. Come see us at YouTube or Facebook/Mile High Huddle. And we're going to go there for 30. And then I'm going to run over to USA, South Alabama, and watch some Senior Bowl practice with my big old camera so I can get y'all some highlights. So we're talking quick. We're not going to even have any final words. We're getting out of here. We'll see you tomorrow.
Peace.